got a tree to come down.
Yeah.
A big one.
You got,
big
when
one.
you cutting down another tree, it's gonna rain all day.
Well, I'm not cutting this one down. It's about 90 to 100 feet tall on my side of my property line.
Does
Oh
it
my
have
gosh.
to come down? You
What?
could hang a wire off of that.
No, I'm afraid if I don't, it's gonna come down at some point here with a heavy wind and pull out about 20 feet of my driveway.
Yeah.
Well, what you do is you cut everything off and you leave the trunk. And that way you can use it to run antennas off of, and the wind will just blow around that.
You
I
reduce
don't-
the wind load.
Better than buying a new tower.
I got,
Anthem,
I got 3 now. I don't need a
Yeah,
4th.
he's got 2 backups.
let's see what I've said in my chat here.
On the way to the golf course in Southington today, I went out the back roads of Wallingford towards 70. There's a ham there. Must have had like 100-foot round tower and another 50-foot round tower with beams on the top. I don't know who it is, but he's
Where
over
was
the
it? Where was this?
Meriden, just before the Meriden Waterbury Turnpike Road there.
Yeah, we talked about him. He's a member of the Southington Club. I don't remember his call though.
Okay, I just went by and he got a huge piece of property with a couple big towers.
Yeah, he's down the hill a little bit from
Yeah.
the road. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the way to Rogus.
and
Yeah.
also right before on the back road of Wallingford going into Cheshire. I don't know if you guys follow Guardians of the Galaxy, but Groot, you know the character Groot?
Yeah.
The guy made like a 10-foot statue wood of Groot. And that's on his front lawn, looks identical with a big iron fence around it.
I saw that.
Did you? I just
Yeah.
today, I was amazed.
I saw that.
Okay, drop it in there.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I gotta mute myself. I got too much background noise, I think. You guys can hear background noise from me, right?
Not right now.
No.
Okay.
Oh, hey, by the way, for anybody interested, I was asked to tell the net that if you're interested in a chat net at 9 o'clock tonight, it's on 28.475. It's the Eastern Connecticut Club's Flying Saucer Net.
Really?
Yeah, I got a friend that checks into that every Thursday night, but I can't hear anything down here.
Yeah, I can-
28.
28.475. Everybody's welcome.
485.
Or
475.
7.5 up 100.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Fun net if you can hear everybody.
Am I connected?
Yes.
Hi, Don.
Thank you. Hey, hi, Brian.
Hey, Rick, Joe, who else? Jim, DQ, Don, Jack,
Bob.
and Bob, WB1GYZ.
Here I am.
Ant and Scott are the only ones without your call signs on your sign in there.
Oh, I gotta fix that.
Yeah, I still log in with my work account.
This is my work account too, and they always say to me, "What the heck's WISO?"
Cool.
Rob, should I kick this off, or do you want to wait a couple more minutes?
It's up to you. You're net control tonight, so you know you're the host, co-host.
Okay.
I got- It's like after 7:30, so
Yeah. You want me to do check-ins, or can everybody see themselves on the screen?
I think check-ins is counterproductive. Let's just get right into it. I'm recording anyway, so
All right, perfect. Okay, so for all of you, welcome to the TechNet.
I'm gonna-
And
pardon me, Ed. I'm going to spotlight you for everyone.
okay.
There we go.
Oh, wow. All right. Welcome to the TechNet. I'm Ant NU1U. I'm from the Middlesex Amateur Radio Society, guest hosting this TechNet. And tonight's recording or net is going to be about DMR hotspots. So when I was asked to do this, I was given a little time window to get it ready. So what we have here is basically a walkthrough of the hardware, the configuration, and then the networks that you can connect to with the hotspot. It's not all encompassing. May want to take a couple notes. Don't worry about the exact configuration because there's a billion YouTube videos that will walk you right through it step by step. This isn't a step by step. This is kind of a to show you what it takes to get a hotspot up and running. So without further ado, let's share my screen to show you what a hotspot is that you're looking for. Okay, so can everybody see Amazon?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, let me open up chat here. Cool, I got the chat window open. All right, so when you're looking for hotspots, there's a few different ways that you can do it. You can buy one that's pre-built, or you can build one yourself. Most hotspots that I've played, well, all the hotspots that I've played with have been Raspberry Pi based, and there's a couple of different types that you can get. Usually the hat is a jumbo spot DVM hat. So it will look, if you do a search on Amazon for jumbo spot, it'll look something like this. And you can slap this device on top of a Raspberry Pi Zero or a regular Raspberry Pi that you have lying around the house. I had one left over from a project that I was doing, a Raspberry Pi B+. That is lots of generations ago. These things still work with that in order to get you online. And actually, you know what? Let me back up just a second to say this is for I am talking about DMR. These hotspots can do other digital modes as well. I'm only familiar with how to configure DMR, and I only have a DMR radio. So if you are interested in a DMR hotspot, this is how you can get there. This will also do Yaesu System Fusion and a couple others. It's like an all-encompassing hotspot, this jumbo spot here. So you can get it pre-built or you can build it yourself. If you buy one of these hats, you then have to buy the Raspberry Pi Zero. So you would need to go to a couple places to get that. If you go on Amazon and you just do a quick gander and you look for the ones that are already pre-built, you don't have to worry about actually building it yourself. It will come with everything. You just want to make sure you read the description that it says that it comes with absolutely everything and click through the pictures. Usually around $100 and you're getting yourself a hotspot. Now these hotspots here, the Raspberry Pi Zeros, are Wi-Fi only. So when you are using a hotspot, the hotspot is two radios, the amateur digital radio, DMR, and then the Wi-Fi radio to connect to your Wi-Fi network to get out to the DMR network that you're trying to talk to. So this version here will only connect to your Wi-Fi at home, whereas if you buy a Raspberry Pi, like the full-blown version of Pi, and you slap this hat on top of it, you can actually plug it in to the Ethernet connection. So to show you what okay, so this here, much cheaper version of the hat, if you go onto these Chinese or Indian websites like AliExpress, you can get the hotspot here, the hat for $20, and you can get the Raspberry Pi from Adafruit, which is local, for $10. So altogether, you get $30 for a hotspot, not including the charger and the SD card. And you can get those pretty cheap as well. They're just a 5-volt charger. I think it's oh god, I can't even remember. It's like micro USB, I think. It's definitely not USB 3. It's micro USB to power these things. If you're doing a Raspberry Pi, like I said, you can either use one that you got at home, or you can use one that you're purchasing. So the Raspberry Pi 4 is the latest and greatest. The middle of the road ones are out of stock here, but you can get a 1 gig one for $30. So $30 plus $20, $50. You're into it for a wired hotspot. So the only thing that's now being RF on your hotspot is going to be for the radio. The reason why you'd want to wire it over doing wireless is because the Raspberry Pis work on 2.4 gigahertz, and there's a lot of interference on 2.4 gigahertz, especially like if you turn on the microwave, sometimes you can kill your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi at home. So wiring it is not a bad idea. If you go ahead and look on Amazon for, let's see if I have the other link here. I didn't. This is one of the ones that I built. It's got a case and it's got a nice little screen here. If you scroll on down, you can see that it's got the hat and it's got the Raspberry Pi. If you add all three to cart, you'll have the whole thing. But that's if you want to get into building it, and it's going to cost you $130. If you want something pre-built, all this stuff I'm talking about is building, except for that one that was here already pre-built for $100. If you want something that's a little bit more commercial, Bridgecom, they have a pre-built digital hotspot, and I think that you can even have them set it up for you. You are paying a premium. It does cost a lot a bit more to get it from Bridgecom, but it's the easy button for hotspots. There's also, and I haven't tried this one either, the OpenSpot 3. That is also a quick to use hotspot to get you onto the DMR networks, and kind of a plug and play version of a hotspot. Again, these ones are a little bit more expensive than the Chinese build it yourself Raspberry Pi ones, but that will get you going as far as hotspots go. So that's the physical hardware that you need for the hotspots. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move on to probably the programming interface?
I've got one question, Ant.
Go for it.
Thanks. So you said Raspberry Pi 4. I've got two Raspberry Pi 4s that are not being tasked out for anything.
Yep.
Can you use a Raspberry Pi 3, or
Yes.
is program? Yeah, you can.
Yep, absolutely. So let me open up my actual hotspots. So these are going to be my hotspots at home. So see the Raspberry Pi 3, see how it's got this pinout here? You just
Sure.
slap the hat right on top of it. Same thing with Raspberry Pi 4.
So the only thing I really would need to get would be the hat.
Yep. The hat,
Means-
and you would need to download the software. So pistar.uk, this is the software that those MMDVM hats use to connect to. It's like an all-in-one image. What you would do is come to this Pi-Star website, click on downloads, click on download Pi-Star, and you're going to pick this RPI image, that guy right there. So if you click on that guy, it's going to download. It's a pretty big file. It took me forever the other night, but looks like it's only going to take a couple, like 20 more seconds here. And you need to burn that to an SD card, or you need to apply that to an SD card. The program that I use for it is called, and eventually it'll pop up, Etcher. So it's actually called Balance Etcher. This guy here is the program that I use. So you download this program, and it's going to pop up, and it's very, very easy. You select your image, and I'm going to select the image that I downloaded. It's this Raspberry Pi image right there. Select target. So if I had an SD card that I wanted to use, which I don't have one plugged in right now, click on that, it'll show you a drive that you can select, the SD card, click continue, and you're on your way. Then you just click flash. That's all you need to do in order to burn the Pi-Star image. Once you've burned the Pi-Star image, you slap it into your Raspberry Pi and it will boot. When it boots, it will broadcast an SSID. It'll broadcast a wireless network. It'll be called Pi-Star. So once you get into you have to connect to that Pi-Star network and then configure your Wi-Fi network so that it will now connect to your Wi-Fi and you can start programming the Pi-Star hotspot from your Wi-Fi network. So the steps, trying to go through it again here, is after you've got your hardware, you go to the Pi-Star website, you click on downloads, you download the image, burn the image to an SD card on Bellina. Oh, it's Bellina. I've been calling it Balenza forever. Bellina Etcher, and then you put it into your Raspberry Pi. When it boots up, it's gonna look something like this, but it's not gonna be populated at all. It's just gonna have blank, blank, because you haven't set it up yet. What you got to do when you've connected to that Pi-Star and you log into the Pi-Star website, and there's, again, better instructions through YouTube to get you step-by-step through this. I'm just kind of glossing over it. When you go into the configuration, scrolling all the way down to the bottom here, that's where you configure your Wi-Fi. So you'd be able to configure your Wi-Fi, apply it, power cycle it. It will now connect to your Wi-Fi. You'll be able to log into your hotspot now and configure the rest of the stuff. Everybody follow me so far?
Perfect. I appreciate that. Looks like it does more than just the DMR. Looks like you've got yeah, YSF. You got some other
D-Star.
stuff. Yeah, D-Star. Pretty cool. There you go, Eric.
So yeah, it can do all this. It can do, well, I believe it's all the digital modes with Pi-Star. I only use DMR. And this hang time here is something where if you're using more than one mode, it'll hang on that mode after you've keyed up or listened in for 20 seconds before it allows you to flip to the next one. So there's a little bit of stickiness.
You can also set up profiles on these hotspots, so you can have a DMR profile and a YSF profile. So you can switch between them depending upon what radio you have.
Yep. I haven't done that yet because again, I only have the DMR one. What does it take to do that? Is it in the expert mode, or do you need to, or is it easy just to click on?
Damned if I know. My son did it with his, and we
Okay.
crosstalk between DMR and Fusion. So, but he showed me that he can have multiple profiles.
Yep.
And he can actually switch the profile while he's driving, which I wouldn't recommend. You know, from one radio to another.
Well, he drives a train, so he's got a little more
Well, no,
downtime.
he's not allowed to play while he's on the train.
Nice. Okay, so once you've burned the image, you've thrown the image onto the hardware, and you've set up your wireless network down here. The next thing that you got to do is connect your Raspberry Pi hotspot to a network. So you've got it connected to your Wi-Fi network, which connects it to the internet. Once it's connected to the internet, now you need to connect to a DMR network of some type. Brandmeister is the most popular. TGIF is another one that I got turned on to, and it's as simple as just pointing the hotspot at which network you want it to use. You should register with the network first so that it will recognize who you are and who your hotspot or what your hotspot is and where it's coming from. So what I do here on my hotspot for initial setup here, put in your call sign and put in your DMR ID. If you don't know your DMR ID, that's real easy to find. You can find anybody's DMR ID just by going to radioid.net. And there's this database right here that you click on. So radioid.net database, and then DMR user ID search. So you can do it by DMR ID, call sign, et cetera, et cetera. I'll do it by call sign, NU1U, search. There's my DMR ID. So DMR ID is not a secret to anybody on the planet. You get one, and that's what you would use to transmit on your radio, and that's how the other radio knows who you are and is able to display that. All right, going back to the configuration here. After you've configured your DMR ID, you want to pick a radio frequency. So the jumbo spots, I got somebody with some feedback. Come on, mute them. All right, cool, we're good. The frequency on the hotspots is UHF, at least the ones that I've been using, UHF. So you want to pick a frequency that is simplex, because you're going to be using simplex. So look at the local band plans and figure out in that range what you want to use. Now, one thing that you will see on some YouTube videos is that folks are either leaving it at the defaults that Pi-Star set, or leaving it in the defaults when they purchased it, whoever set those up, or just picks a frequency and just uses it. There are satellite frequencies that you should not be using because you'll be messing with any satellite operators that are in the area. Not that it's common. I mean, there's not that many guys in a square mile area that are running and operating satellite, but just be cognizant of repeater frequencies and other frequencies that might not be used all the time, but if you're using it enough, you might interfere with someone else. Try and avoid that if you can. So the hotspot, you can buy a duplex one, but for the most part, they are simplex. You will either transmit or you will receive. And when it is transmitting, the hotspot is transmitting, you can't do anything on the hotspot because the hotspot is also simplex. So it can't hear whatever you're transmitting while it's transmitting. And we'll get to that a little bit later. So you put in the radio frequency that you're going to be using. All this stuff, latitude, longitude, town, you can put it in, you don't have to. What kind of modem you're using. So DVM, the STM32 DVM, Raspberry Pi hat. That's the jumbo spot. So we put that on there. Node type. So you can choose between private or public. And if you click on private, only your ID that's programmed into your radio can use your hotspot. Now, my wife and I have two different IDs, two different radios. So I've chosen to make my hotspot public, which means that anybody can key up on this frequency. And if they have programmed in that frequency, the correct talk group, color code, time slot, they'll be able to transmit and receive on my hotspot. More likely transmit. You can receive on any hotspot. It doesn't matter whether it's public or private. If I added our DMR IDs here, then it would be only her and I could use it. But I don't really care because I know that nobody else in the area is a DMR operator, ham radio. The next closest guy is way, way down the road. So I left mine public. And then you click apply changes and all this stuff goes in. So that'll get you set up with a frequency and who you are in the hotspot. The next thing that you're going to do is connect to a network. And there's a drop down here of networks that you can connect to. As you can see, there's this one called Free DMR. TGIF is the one that I'll be talking about. There's also, if we scroll up here, BM, which stands for Brandmeister. And for all of us on the East Coast, we're going to want to choose BM 3101. That's the one on the East Coast. 3102 is in the middle of the country. 3103 is on the West Coast. I don't know what 3104 is.
Yep. They're phasing out 3101 on December 1st. So they're encouraging everybody that's on 3101 to go to 3104, which is a super server in Chicago. But you don't have to do it today. You've got several months to do it, but that's what they're recommending.
So thank you, because I haven't been keeping up to date on some of this stuff. And I actually found out when I was going to make this presentation that my Pi-Star software was so old that I had to re-image it from version 3 to version 4.
That 3101's been going out of service quite frequently too. I don't know if that has anything to do with that or not.
It might. I switched to 3104 and it works fine.
That's what I did.
Cool beans. All right, so for the TGIF network, you select TGIF network, and then you can pick any number in here that you want to use. Doesn't matter. It just represents your hotspot on the network. You can set up multiple hotspots on their network, and that's the reason why you'd have different numbers. So if you had a hotspot that you're using at home, hotspot that you use in your car, hotspot that you use at work, you select a different ESSID for each one of those guys so it can connect to the TGIF network. Now, as far as the rest of the configuration goes, you can just leave it alone. And that's all you really need to connect to the TGIF network. For the Brandmeister network, it's spinning because I made a change. Let's actually pause there so I can take a drink and see, are there any other questions before I move on to actually showing you the logins and the interfaces for those networks? All right, cool beans. So TGIF network. Okay, so to get to TGIF network, it's tgif.network, and it will bring you to this dashboard here. There's a few different things that you can do here to get kind of acclimated to the different talk groups. You can click on monitoring and click on talk group list. And that's going to bring up all of the 583 talk groups that you can program into your radio and talk on the TGIF network. So if you have your hotspot set up for TGIF network, all these networks you can talk on. So there's like France, Ham Vegas, Old Buzzards. You can just scroll through them and see what you want, or you can do a search. So like, I know that the Blind Hams group is super popular or super used on this network because it comes up all the time. If you click on monitoring, you can see these active talk groups and last heard. So if we click on active talk groups, it's going to show what talk groups are currently being used and who's talking on them. So if you don't know what talk group you want to join on this, just come to this dashboard, see what talk groups are active, program it into your radio, key up on it, and listen in for a while. See who's talking, see if it's something you're interested in. And that's the beauty of having a hotspot, is that it's your own little repeater in your house, and you can listen to people anywhere else on the planet that are doing the same thing, or their repeaters are linked to the DMR networks. So Brandmeister, for instance, the Connecticut General Talk Group for DMR, that has a talk group on Brandmeister. So you can key up on that and hit all of the Connecticut repeaters. And you can also hear all the Connecticut repeaters on your hotspot. So if you have trouble getting into that talk group from wherever you are in the state, if you can't hit a repeater, you can bring your hotspot with you and still key up and talk on the DMR network inside of Connecticut on that one talk group. Let's see. Another thing that you can do here is play with your hotspot from here to configure it. So if I click on my name, because I've logged in, registered an account, and click self-care, there's this IP address here. This is my IP address at home. If I wasn't home, I wouldn't be able to do this, because you need to be behind the same network as your hotspot in order to mess around with this. So this knows that it's my hotspot because I logged in from the same IP address that my hotspot is connecting to their network from. And right now, the only thing that I can do other than seeing what my hotspot is doing, I'm not sorry, not what it's doing, how it's configured here, is change the talk group. So right now it's in time slot 4000, which means disconnected. I can select a talk group in here. So let's say TGIF. This TGIF talk group, click update. And now my hotspot is connected to the 31665 talk group on time slot 2 on my hotspot, and anybody who keys up on that talk group on the TGIF network, I will hear on my radio.
Airport, American Lane. So, I think I know where you're at. But
So yeah, that was fortunate that somebody actually keyed up at the time I was just talking about it. If someone's talking, so I don't know if you can see this. No, you can't. If someone's talking on your hotspot and you want to disconnect, so if you have a talk group programmed in for 4000 and you key up, that will disconnect all the talk groups that you've programmed in, or not programmed in, all the talk groups that are active on your hotspot. But if someone's talking, because it's simplex, I can't actually key up and hit my hotspot. So I can come in here and I can click on this and type in 4000, which is none, click update. And now my hotspot will go silent again, so that I can either change talk group by keying up on another talk group or plug it back in here. So I realize that I understand that because I've done it before, but that might not, everybody might not understand what I just went through. Are there any questions on the concept of what I just talked about?
Yeah, and it's been so long since I programmed DMR. How are you changing the talk groups?
Okay.
By portable?
So to change talk groups by portable, there's 2 different ways that you can do it. You can, if no one's talking, just key up on the talk group. It'll automatically change you to a talk group. So let's say, okay, so you can see that there's 4000 there. I'm going to key up on the Connecticut statewide talk group on TGIF. Is NU1U testing 1, 2. And you can see here, it changed the number. So now I'm on talk group 3109, it's the Connecticut talk group. All I did was key up. So now if I want to change to a different one, let's do listen all. So this is going to be talk group 777. Key it up, change it to 777 there. Now on the TGIF network 777, that's the listen all talk group, or well, yes, the listen all talk group. It will pick a random talk group from the TGIF network, let you listen to it, and then when that person unkeys, it'll pick another talk group that's active and start playing it. So you can just basically listen in all day on this talk group, and you need to either be on the ready to key up disconnect, or you need to come in here and set your talk group to 4000 again, so that that turns off. So I said that there were 2 ways to do it. One way is just key up. The other way is to do a private call on your radio to 4000. So instead of doing a group call like you do to a talk group, it's just a different setting on your radio that's a private call to 4000. Key up, it will disconnect any talk group that's on there. So on the Brandmeister network, if you've keyed up on multiple talk groups, it takes 20 minutes for them to time out. So you can be on 3 talk groups at the same time. And if you hit 4000, it will disconnect all of those talk groups so that you're not listening to 3 different talk groups. Now you're back to square one and you can go to whatever talk group you want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that is TGIF network. If you go to the TGIF talk group on Friday nights at 8:30, there's a net that goes on for like 2 hours because everybody checks in from everywhere. It's just basically check in with your call sign. That's it. There's no rag chew. There's no informal sessions. It's just check in with your call sign, and it goes for hours. So the next thing that we have here is,
I've got a question
go for it.
from the chat. This is from Sean, KC1NQE. Is there a way to scan through talk groups without setting a static node on the hotspot?
Scan through talk groups. So you mean like have it rolling so that you can basically jump from talk group to talk group to see if somebody's keyed it up?
Sean, you want to kick in here?
Yeah, the question is basically if I want to set all the Connecticut channels, the alert channels, the general channel and whatnot.
Yeah.
If I wanted to kind of pick up on the radio when somebody transmits, I have to have that set static on the Pi-Star config.
So
If I take those out, then I don't hear anything.
you're talking about on the Brandmeister network?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me go over the Brandmeister network and log in. And we can all see what you're talking about here. Okay, so you're talking about in the static talk group section, you put in all the Connecticut ones?
Correct. And that way it kind of leads like an open channel. As soon as somebody transmits on any of them,
Yep.
it automatically goes to the radio.
Right.
However, if you put in, say, worldwide in anything else, it's going to kind of stomp on each other. Is there a way to set that so that way you could actually scroll through it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not, I
I had a feeling that was the answer.
Yeah, I want to give you a good answer. I don't know of a way to do it, just because. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. No, I beat my head on it for like 2 weeks and
Yep.
figured that was the answer.
The best way is to go on NetWatch on the internet and see what talk groups are active.
What's NetWatch?
It's like Last Heard or NetWatch. The different systems have it, and if people, they can every time you key up a repeater, even if you don't talk on it, it'll show up on the internet on that page.
Yeah, so Brandmeister has its own version of that. If you log into Brandmeister and you click on Last Heard, you can see everybody keying up and then what talk group they're on, and what their call sign is, etc. So yeah.
What happened to hose?
What's that?
What happened to the hose?
I don't know. I don't know. You're talking about the where you can listen in on any of these talk groups?
Yeah.
It never worked very well, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think they gave up on it because it never worked very well.
I tried it a couple of times and I gave up like immediately because it wasn't any fun. Yeah, so we'll click off of that because I honestly don't know. All right, so let's see. This is my hotspot and it should be active. But it's not. Stand by.
Can you go back to Last Heard? I had some questions on that page.
Which page are we talking about?
Last Heard.
Last Heard? Let's go for it.
Hey, by the way, NetWatch the name got changed to Call Watch. If you want to see the Connecticut stuff.
Oh, because I can't find Connecticut. Thanks.
Yeah, it's the exact same IP address, but just after the slash, instead of NetWatch, type Call Watch.
Right.
One word.
Okay. Sorry, we didn't go to it. So you wanted to be here?
Mike, that's you.
You're muted, Mike.
Oh, I'm a bit confused on what those different columns are.
The time that the link is active, the link name, I think that's just what type of hotspot you're using. The person's call sign. It's also got their DMR ID on here. The talker's alias. I'm not sure what that is. I think that's just your call sign and your name. You can program that into your radio. Source, so usually the call sign and DMR ID. Destination, what talk group you're trying to talk on. And then the rest of it is like coming in on a D-Star, DMR, what the signal strength is of the radio to the hotspot. So yeah, that's what all those columns are. It moves very, very fast. Really what you want to do is you want to search for different things here. Let's do net. Okay, there's no Connecticut. Perfect.
Nobody in Connecticut.
Yeah, nobody keyed up in Connecticut.
Destination is the one that's the active channels.
Say that again?
Destination is the active channels.
Yes. Yep. And so I changed my gateway to 3104 and it didn't actually register again. So I'm gonna change it to 3102. All right, so let's see, trying to go back to where it makes sense to go back to. We jumped around a bit, but if you log into Brandmeister, which is brandmeister.network, you're going to see your hotspots here. And so this one here is my home one. I click on it and it's going to show a whole bunch of information. The only thing I really care about on this page is static talk groups. So what you can do here versus what you can do on TGIF is you can program in talk groups like 3109. Now the Connecticut talk group will always play on my hotspot, whether I've keyed up on it or not. Then there's other ones that I might want to set static. So let's do PyStar UK, the same place that you get the image. If you go over to Brandmeister tools, it actually has a talk group list and you can control F for whatever one you want. The AMSAT talk group is 98006. So what I'll do is try and find it up here. Holy cow. Put in that talk group. And now I have multiple talk groups. So like Sean was saying, if you have multiple talk groups on here, if one talk group is active and another talk group is active, you're going to hear them both. One's going to be the one that keyed up first. And then if the other one's still talking, it'll key up. And you won't be able to get in there unless you're quick on the trigger to either, well, you wouldn't be able to disconnect it. You're going to have those two talk groups talking all the time because they're static. So you can't disconnect them. That's a problem with adding static talk groups in here. You only want to add really infrequently used talk groups or ones that you want to listen to all the time and in the static talk group. Because if you have a bunch of active ones, like you were saying on worldwide, you'll never be able to key up on your hotspot till you come back in here and remove it from the static talk groups. So we'll remove both these.
That's fairly cool.
All right, let's see if my hotspot showed up yet. Not yet. That's what happens when you do a demo live. Let me see if it's connected yet. Is NU1U testing the parrot on Brandmeister? It done broke my hotspot. Let's see, dashboard. Configuration. Okay, so while I'm trying to figure that out, another thing that you need to know on Brandmeister is that where the security for your hotspot on TGIF is just an IP address, what network you're on. With Brandmeister, you do need to go into self-care under your username and set a hotspot security password. If you don't have this password on, your hotspot's not going to work. So you need to have this password match the password that is in your Brandmeister hotspot security right here. That way there it'll connect up. It'll know that you and your DMR ID and your hotspot is actually you, and connect the hotspot up to the network. Let me change this to Brandmeister. You said Brandmeister 3104 should be working.
Should be.
Okay, well, that is taking effect, and things take a little while on these to change. Anybody have any additional questions?
Yeah, and how do you differentiate between multiple hotspots? You give them the same number, -1, -2, or?
Multiple hotspots in the same network or multiple hotspots between networks?
Between networks.
So
Well, say you have one in a car, one in the house, one in Florida, you know.
So this ESSID right here, the Brandmeister Network ESSID,
right,
or on the TGIF DMR ESSID, you just change that to a different number. Doesn't matter what number it is, as long as it's different.
That's the 2-digit number on the end.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Now, a couple of things with working with multiple hotspots. If you're using one in the car and you're using one at home and you want to put in less programming in your radio, you can set them to both to the same frequency. You just don't want to have that hotspot on the car on and close to your house, because what can happen is if you're on the same frequency and somebody keys up, it will transmit that DMR signal to your other hotspot and you can loop the network. So you'll just have a horrible bunch of noise looping the network. You don't want to do that. So the recommendation is for hotspots, if you're using the same network, configure different frequencies so that doesn't happen, or just don't have them on at the same time. As far as different networks go, like different hotspots and different networks, so the TGIF network here, I have it on 446.525. For Brandmeister, I have it on 445.500. And that's one thing that I didn't show is the programming over here. So, oh man, can you guys see that okay? Or is that really small?
It's kind of small.
Okay, let me double click on it, see if it gets any bigger for you. Oh no, it gets about the same size. All right, so let me explain to you what I'm seeing here is on the repeat. So these are the repeaters in Connecticut that you're seeing this giant list of. There's a receive frequency and there's a transmit frequency because there's the offset and it's a full duplex. So with a repeater, you would set this to 2 different frequencies, put in your digital mode, your talk group that you wanted to use, your, let's see, what else is there? There's the color code in here somewhere. Oh, color code and the time slot, etc. So you program that all in your radio here. For a hotspot, it's different because you're doing simplex. Let me see if I can find it here. AO91, East Hampton. Where is standby channel zone? Brandmeister. They're in the thousands. Okay, cancel. Channel. Okay, so I keep saying okay like I found it because I have them in so many different locations here. All right, so again, for the folks that can't see in the back, or basically anybody, what you're doing is you're putting in your radio the channel name that you want to use, the send and the receive frequency are going to be the same because you're using simplex. And then on your hotspot, you've programmed in a color code that you're going to use, and the time slot is usually 2. So for all of your talk groups, you get the same frequency, same color code, same time slot. The only thing you're changing here is your talk group, and these are all set up in the talk group section of your code plug. You also want to set your transmit power to low, because these hotspots are transmitting at like 10 milliwatts, and your radio can probably go to low power, which is like 1 watt. So your radio is still going to be way more powerful than your little hotspot's going to be. So you always want to have that be low, or you're just transmitting farther out than you need to. As far as the talk groups go, let's go to digital talk group. What the heck is it? Oh Lord, it's been a long time. There it is, contact group. So all these ones at the very top are for the repeaters and the talk groups that they use. But then I've programmed in these ones for the hotspots. So like the parrot talk group, to disconnect the talk group is 4,000. And let's see what else we got here. Scroll on down. TGIF talk group, AMSAT talk group. So these are all the numbers of the talk groups that are on those. And you're setting different talk groups for different networks, depending. Some of them share the same one. So like this Connecticut talk group, Brandmeister and TGIF, they both use 3109. So you can program 3109, and then in your channel list, you can use that talk group for both hotspots. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. DMR can be quite complicated until you get the swing of it.
What is the typical range you would get on your hotspot?
So my house is a ranch, and I'm on the lower side where my hotspots are here. I can go to the end of the street in both directions and still pick up and transmit on my hotspot. If you had it probably up high with a better antenna than one of these little guys here, you could probably get it to go farther. The idea isn't really for distance. The idea is really for it to be your personal repeater in your house. So unless you live in a really, really like big house, like a block, you don't need to worry about it if you're puttering around the yard or whatever. There was a guy on a YouTube video I watched where he put it in a window up on like a 3rd story. He walked a mile away and he was still able to key it up.
But people can listen in though on it. That's not a problem.
People can, not a problem. What, in what regard?
I was listening on your personal hotspot. You're not keeping them from listening.
No, nope. It's just like any other ham radio stuff. It can't be encrypted. So if it's transmitting, people can hear it. It's at very low power. So I know nobody else in the neighborhood is a ham. Nobody on my street is a ham. So I just leave them on all the time, like keyed up, and I don't worry about it. I don't know if that's best practice or not, but it's not bothering anybody in my neighborhood. Nobody's knocked on my door and said, hey, cut it out.
Okay.
You go back to the TGF. I missed in the beginning, but that's a separate network.
Yeah, so there's multiple networks. The two that I was talking about were TGIF and Brandmeister. So TGIF network, the website is tgif.network, and Brandmeister is brandmeister.network. And both of those are set in the Pi Star by just coming down here to the DMR configuration and either selecting the Brandmeister network nodes or the TGIF one, which is way, I think it's way at the bottom. Is it even in here? Oh, there it is, TGIF network. But with Brandmeister, you need a password for sure. Let me see if my hotspot came back up. I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that after this because my hotspot, oh, there it is. Stand by. Something happened. Okay, so as we were changing things around, I couldn't get the Brandmeister to connect. As Eric was saying, 3104 I connected to, and my DMR ESSID went back to none. So what it looks like on Brandmeister now is this 3152237. Now, instead of it being the 10 that I had set, it's this one here. So if I want to configure that hotspot now, I have to select this one. And what we can see if I key up on, let's do the AMSAT group. Okay, so I keyed up on the AMSAT group, and what we're going to see if we go into view here is this time slot has a lightning bolt next to it, and it says AMSAT. It expires in, I think that's 20 minutes, or is that 20 hours? I'm not sure, but it expires eventually. That's a dynamic talk group that I set just by keying it up. It will stay on until I either key up another talk group or I manually disconnect.
Can I access TGF through a open spot?
I don't know. I don't have an open spot, so I'm not sure. I think so. So also in the static talk groups down here, you can see AMSAT. If you hover over it, it says auto static. The talk group was set automatically due to it's the last talk group that has been keyed up. Clear it by dialing talk group 4000. So in order to disconnect from the AMSAT talk group, I would key up talk group 4000. If I key up another talk group, so Connecticut General, if I can find it. It's going to do the same thing. So click on view here. And now you can see we have two of these guys that are connected as far as Connecticut and AMSAT. If I go back to the hotspot here and look at the static talk groups, this will eventually populate and it'll say Connecticut as well. I think Brandmeister's dashboard's being a little bit slow, but that's how it works, is you can key up on multiple talk groups at Brandmeister and still have it work without disconnecting. On TGIF, once you can key up on another talk group, it disconnects you from the old talk group. So there's a little bit of difference. As far as talk group quantity goes, we saw on the TGIF network, the talk group list, it's a talk group of 583. For Brandmeister, the talk group list, it's massive. It's 1,545 talk groups. So you can see all these talk groups here are the talk groups in Brandmeister. It's a little bit harder to get a talk group assigned to you in Brandmeister. They need to see activity on that talk group for a while before they actually let you give it a name and have it be your talk group. As far as TGIF goes, I think all you need to do is apply for one. So request talk group. You just give them an email address, talk group number that you want, email, and a reason why you want the talk group. And I think you get a talk group. So if you wanted to have a club talk group, or you wanted to maybe have a similar interest talk group, you can set one up on TGIF. Looks like easier than on Brandmeister. But either one, it's not a repeater. It's a network on the internet that's connecting hams that are talking on these hotspots and repeaters that are set up to use these networks as well.
Are the repeaters that have TGIF?
Say that again?
Are the repeaters that are connected to TGIF?
There are, not in Connecticut, I don't think.
Can you force the hotspot to change networks from the handheld?
So someone in your club did. I don't know if that was Sean. Somebody had pinged me about it and said that they were able to get it to work. Okay. But there's a lot of gyrations that they did to get it to work. So not natively on a jumbo spot does it work. The open spots and the Zoom spots, they might be easier. I don't know. I bought the cheapy ones.
Okay.
The open spot will actually do transcoding within the device itself, so you can actually do cross mode translation within the open spot. So you can actually do DMR to D-Star or wires right from the device itself.
Yeah, I've heard that on some nets where they're saying that we're bridged with different talk groups or rooms and Wires X or whatever it is. That's way beyond the scope of anything that I know because I haven't played with it.
I have minimal experience with it.
Nice.
You can get on America Link, which is Fusion YSF. I've been able to do it, but I punch in the America Link talk group on Brandmeister and it works fine, but I don't think my hotspot's doing the decoding. I think they're doing the decoding somewhere else. But you can cross mode depending on the talk group.
Excellent. Well, you've all been a great audience. I have showed you everything that I wanted to show you. So unless you guys have questions, this has been a good TechNet.
Yeah, I appreciate the. I learned a lot tonight. So you're quite knowledgeable about this DMR stuff, and I am not. So it's nice to hear it.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable. Thanks, Ant.
We've got some comments on the chat, but no real questions. So I'll leave it to you to pick through those if you'd like to pick one up and comment on it. But no real questions here.
Yeah. So a good one to know is someone had asked about if folks can hear, and Scott had put it in the chat there that they can hear it, but they do need a DMR radio or an SDR that can decode it. So it's not encrypted per se, but it is digital, and your FM radio is not going to decode that digital message. So you'll hear something, but it won't sound like anything that is voice. And that's actually one thing that I played with just this week. There's one satellite that does D-Star, and it's the same frequency as the FM side of the house. So we made contact on the FM side, said we were going to flip to D-Star. And if there was anybody else listening to that bird while we were talking, all they heard was some kind of weird noise and seeing that the bird was keying up, but they couldn't hear us on the digital side of the house if they were listening on FM only.
Which bird is that?
AO27.
AO27.
Yep. AO27 is interesting because it's on a timer, I think. It's not on all the time. So you wait, and then all of a sudden you hear it in the morning. And then because it's an FM bird, everybody just piles on unless it's out into the ocean.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. I've been also using Blue DV with a thumb drive. With that configuration, can I get into that network?
What's it called?
Blue DV. It's a software program, and it works off the thumb drive.
Blue DV, I believe, is D-Star only. I have the red version of that actually hooked up to a Pi-Star, but that connects to the D-Star side of digital.
Yeah, so if it does D-Star only, then it's not going to connect to these DMR networks.
Does D-Star, DMR, does all modes.
If it does all modes, then it should be able to. I don't know if you have to plug anything in or if it has the option in its GUI to connect to it. You'd have to go through its menu.
It's a talk group for the TGIF.
Say that again?
What is a talk group for the TGIF?
The talk group? So the TGIF talk group is, let's see, talk group.
3109.
It's 31665 for on the TGIF network. The TGIF talk group is 31665. But that's if you're connected to the TGIF network. And another thing that Scott brought up is you can disconnect from the hotspot webpage. And yes, you absolutely can. Let me share my screen again. I'm sorry, he brought up a good point. If you go to, I think it's admin. Please tell me it's admin. Yep. So if you click on admin here where it says talk group number, unlink, you can click modify static and it'll unlink it from the talk group that you're on. So you can do it in 3 different places. 3. There's the actual network, so TGIF or Brandmeister, you can disconnect it. You can disconnect it from your Pi-Star dashboard, or you can disconnect from the radio. Thanks, Scott. I forgot about that one.
Cool.
Need a Pi-Star to do that?
Do we need Pi-Star to do the disconnecting?
They get into TGIF.
To get into TGIF? I don't know. I know that you can from Pi-Star. I don't know if there's any other hotspots that can.
It's like you got a new project, Mike.
Yep. Unfortunately, I'm only coming from the Pi-Star world because those are the hotspots that I bought.
Yep. Very cool. Any other questions, comments, queries?
There's an app that goes in there called Droid Star.
Sorry, what was that?
There's an app on the Android that can go in there. It's called Droid Star.
Droid Star.
Is that anything like the Death Star?
No, it's similar to Echo Link.
Ah.
Oh, nice. So what does Droid Star do? Is that it'll just connect to whatever DMR, D-Star network?
Well, you dial up a talk group that you want. Like I can dial up America Link and talk and listen on that. And that's a Fusion one. I found it does well on Fusion. It does fair to Midland on DMR and not at all on D-Star.
Okay.
It's basically new. It's in development, so I'm sure it'll get better in time. But it's kind of cool. It's the same principle as Echo Link.
All right, awesome. Well, sounds like there's no other questions. Thanks everybody for coming. Rob, did you want to give anybody any announcements or
All
anything?
right, if there's nothing else, I think we're going to close this one out. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, it's good.
And thanks for again hosting on, especially on short notice.
Not a problem.
And I certainly learned a lot from this one as well as the last one. So appreciate your presentation, and hope to see you and everyone else here pretty soon. I'm going to put this up on YouTube after we're done recording here, and I'll share the link with everyone, Ant, with you and with the rest of the members at.
Is Togi still on? Togi still connected?
Don, I see you're talking, but I can't hear your voice for some reason.
I can hear him.
No, Togi took off.
Can't hear anybody's. Probably my problem.
Togi left? Okay, thanks.
Yep, my problem. Yeah, it's
Great.
much better now.
Great presentation, Ant. Thank you.
Not a problem.
So
Very
Rob,
interesting. Thank you.
Rob, we'll see you on DMR shortly.
I've been on there. I still got my DMR TYT.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna make a one of my Raspberry Pis into a hotspot. So that's probably next on the event horizon.
The nice thing about hotspots is you're not tying up a time slot on a repeater, and that can become important. So if you get on somebody's repeater, you're tying up a time slot and somebody else can't use that time slot. But if you go right into the network with your hotspot, you're bypassing all that. So it saves resources.
I have to get TGIF on my cell phone.
They don't want you, Mike.
All right, guys, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.